Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Samich Ches Amud Alif, starting with Samich Zayin Amud Beis, 7 lines from the bottom. The Gemara tells us the following incident in regards to Erev Chatzeros and Shituf Mivois. Hahu Yenuka di Ishtapech Chamime. There was a child of the 8th day, that means an 8-day-old child who was ready for bris milah. And in the days of Chazal, they would prepare hot water for the baby to bathe in before, and then also to be bathed in after the bris milah. So they needed to have hot water for the baby before the bris milah, and it spilled. Omar Luhu Rabbi. Rabbi said the people were involved in making the preparations for the bris milah. Naisu le chamime migoy bisoy. Bring the hot water from my home that is in the chutzner. Although the child is in another bias in the chutzner, bring it through the chutzner into the bias where the child is held. Omar le Abaye. Abaye then responded to the suggestion of Rabbi, V'holar arvinon. Behold, we did not make an eruv chatzeros. And we know for a person to be permitted to then carry from a bias to the chutzner and vice versa, one must make a eruv chatzeros. That was not done. Omar le, so Rabbi said, Nismoich ashituv, let's rely on shituf mivois, that although one did not make an erev chatzeros, but if he did make shituf mivois, which is a similar concept in regards to enjoining the chatzeros to one mavui, one can rely upon the shituf mivois for the erev chatzeros. Omar le, so Abai responded, Holo shitfinon. Behold, we didn't make a shituf. So therefore, that's also not a possibility to rely upon. Neimule, let us say, says Rabbi, Lenochri leisile. Let us say to the Nochri to then instruct him to bring hot water from my house through the chutzner into the bayis where the child is being held. Omar Abaye. I wanted to ask the following question on Rabba's psak halacha, but Rav Yosef did not permit me to do so. He held me back from doing so. Why? The Omar Rav Yosef, Omar Rav Kahana. For Rav Yosef said the name of Kahana. Ki havina be Rav Yehuda hava Omar Lon. When we were in the Beis HaMedrash of Rav Yehuda, he would say to us, in an issue, in halachic ruling that's in regards to a di'araisa, that's regards to min hatara, something that is going to then affect a halacha min hatara. So we first then scrutinize the halacha that the posek gave, and then we then follow the maisa if everything is then smooth and correct. B'dirabanan, unless we have a specific, clear-cut safek into what he said, avdina ma'isiv v'hodem masbinan tiyufta. But when the posek says a halacha in regards to a dirabanan, we don't go ahead and ask potential refutations. Rather, we do what he then had said based on his psak, and then afterwards we can scrutinize. So this over here is a issue dirabanan because we're talking about going through the chutzner without an erev chatzeros. Lebasar hachi. Omar li. After this, Rav Yosef said to me, my boys lu'us be'lamar. You, Abaye, what did you want to ask Rabba? What type of question do you want to ask based on his psak halacha? That one should go ahead and tell a nochri to go ahead and bring the water from the bias that it's situated in to the bias where the child is held in. Omar le. Abaye responded, this is the following peak book that I had, the Tanya. It says in the Brisa, I want to ask like this, from the Brisa, Hazo shvus va'amir l'nochri shvus. It says that when there is a requirement to do hazo, sprinkling the afer of para aduma on somebody who's tamei mace, and in regards to the iser derabanan of telling a goy to do a malacha on Shabbos, so we have the following. It states on top of Samach Ches Amud Alif, Ma Hazah Shvus ve'eino doiches HaShabbos. Just as Hazah, sprinkling the afer, the ashes of the para aduma on the one who's tamei mace, that's not doiches Shabbos. here we're talking about a situation when there is somebody who's tamei meis, and although that person has his 7th day of the sprinkling falling out on Shabbos, which happens to be also Yudale Nisan when the Korban Pesach is brought, so therefore, until he is tahor, he will be precluded from them bringing the Korban Pesach. So here we're saying that since, even though it's a mitzvah performance to allow him to bring the Korban Pesach, but since there's an Isser Shvus, either because it's a problem, the Chacham were worried that you might come to carry the Efer Para in the Rishus Harabim, and therefore be over a malach of Hoitzah on Shabbos, or because it's like a Makah Bet Paktish, which would be a tikkun of the person who's now going to retire the Tamei Meis. He's going to become Tohor. Al Koponim, it says, Ma Hazah Shvus, Ve'eno Doiches HaShabbos. It's not Doiche the Shabbos. One cannot do that on Shabbos. Af Amira L'Nochri Shvus Ve'eno Doiches HaShabbos. So too, saying to a goy to then do a malacha, even though it's for a mitzvah performance, is not Doiches HaShabbos. So therefore, I want to ask on Rabba's Psak, how can we tell the Nochri to bring the mayim, that is hot water from one house, his house, through the Chatzar to where the Tinok, where the child is situated? Omar Le, Rav Yosef said, "V'loy shanu loch ben shvus di'is ben ma'isa l'shvus de les ben ma'isa." Did you not make the following distinction that when it comes to a shvus, when we say an amir la'akum, when you say to a goy to do a malacha for you that's di'araisa versus a malacha that is only di'rabanan, there's a distinction. The ha'mar loy omar l'nochri zil achem, because behold, Rabba was not suggesting that the goy be told to go ahead and heat up water. Now again, we're not talking about pikuach nefesh, because this is before the bris milah. So there's no issue of pikuach nefesh. When they went to tell the goy to bring the water from the house where the waters are situated to the other house, that would be an amira la'akum for which is going to do an iser dirabanan b'makom mitzvah. So there's a distinction, as opposed to telling a goy to go ahead and heat up water, which would be a malacha di'araisa. Omale Rabbi Bar Chanan le'Abaye. Rabbi Bar Chanan said to Abaye the following: Mevua di'is bei trei gavri ravavik rabbanon loy lahavi bei loy eruv v'loy shituf. He was surprised at Abaye. Why didn't you, who are situated, you and Rabba, in this chatzar, not make eruv chatzeros or shituv mavoi? Hare, by doing so you prevent potential isurim from taking place. So I'm surprised, why didn't you make either one of these things in eruv chatzeros or shituv mavoi? Omar lei, Abai responds, my na'avi, what can we do? Mar lav orche. For Rabba, it's not considered to be, according to his kavod, it's beneath his dignity to go around and gather bread from all the people of the Bnei Chotzir. Anna, and as for myself, Abaye says, Tarina b'gersoy, I'm busy with my learning. I'm too overly engrossed in my learning to then be able to deal with the Erev Chatzeres and Shitiv Mevois. Inhu lo mashkechei, and the people of the Bnei Chotzir, they don't care either. V'yakne lehu pischa besala, and if I do go ahead and makne pita besala, bread in a basket, mean to say that won't consider to be a tircha at all, because I'll merely make an amira and make a transaction by then makne to them the pita, the bread that is in the basket, whereby they'll have a chelik in this bread, and that will also work to enjoin them. There will be a problem to do that, because kivan di iboy lehu minoi lo efshali yisba nihlai boto shituf. Since if they were to ask of me for some of that bread over the course of the weeks, I would not be able to maintain the requirements of Eruv Chatzeros by then giving them some of the bread, because I would not be able to then part with all of that bread, and that would mavatil the shituf, so therefore that would not be valid. The Tanya, as it states in the Brisa, Echad mibnei mavui shebikesh yayim v'shemen v'lo nosnu loy botel hashituf. If they made shituv mevois with either oil or with wine, and then it was asked upon the person to then give them a little bit of that wine or that oil, and he was not going to then do so, that would then mevatil the whole shituv mevois. So therefore we see from here that you have to be able to then give over that which you're using. If you're makbid, Tosfos says therefore be very careful not to then do something that you're going to be makbid about. He gives examples of pashtida and other such items that a person who has a kikar nar would not want to part with. Then don't do your erev chatzeros, don't do your sheet of mivois with these type of items if you're not going to be then able to give some of that. So therefore I myself am aware that I would not be able to then stand by this eruv, whereby I can't go ahead and makne the bread. Ask the Gemara, v'nakne luhumar reviyasa dechala bechavisa. Why don't you makne to them a revis of vinegar in a chavis? Now we learn in the Gemara in Daf Chav Tes Amud Aleph that since if you have enough for Erev Chatzeros for 2 su'udos, and one of the examples that's brought over there in the Gemara is enough chometz, enough vinegar to dip either your meat or your yerek inside for the amount of 2 sudos worth, that's considered to be sufficient for an Erev Chatzeros. So why don't we makne to them that, and then that would also suffice, and you won't have to be makbid about taking vinegar. Tanyo, because the Gemara says in the Brisa, you're not able to then make a sheet of mivois with oiter, with something that is stored. So therefore that was not a possibility either. Ask the Gemara, Tanya mishtatfin. We have a Brisa that says otherwise. It says, yes, you can go ahead and make sheet of mivois through something that's stored away. So in this case, vinegar would be an option. Says the Gemara, Omer of Oshaya lo kashyo ha beishamai ha beisilo. There's 2 different Brises. The first brisa that says it's not a way to then make a sheet of mivois with something that's in oitzer, with something that's stored away. That's shitas beis Shammai. Whereas the brisa that states otherwise, that's shitas beis Hillel. As follows, it says in the following Mishnah, Disnan, hameis bebayis v'lo poischin harbe. A person, there's a dead person in a bayis, and in that bayis there's many doorways. The Mishnah says, Kulan Tamein, all of these doorways and whatever is inside of those doorways in that area, that is going to be Tameh, even though technically is not halachically within the oil of the mace. But nonetheless, we have a halacha that if they don't know where they're going to bring the mace through, then we say that all of these doorways are going to then be Tameh, meaning all the things that are underneath them will become Tameh. Niftach echad mehem. However, if one of them is open, one of these doorways is open, hu tamei v'kulan taharin, then that one which is opened is tamei rather, and all the other ones are taharin, because we know then we have a chazaka, the assumption is that he'll be brought through the door that is opened. So therefore, only that doorway is tamei, while the other doorways are going to be tahor. If he thinks to then plan to bring the mace through one of them, or through a window the size of at least dalid by dalid tfochim, that's sufficient. That the fact that he plans to then take it through that specific doorway, or through the chalon, that itself is sufficient to be matzil all the other doorways. And only that doorway, which he plans to walk through, take the mace through, only that will be tamei. Now there's a machlokes, what is this referring to? And this gets to then the difference of opinions in our brisos. Beis Shammai oimrim, Beis Shammai says, v'hu cheshechiv ad shelo yamus hameis. Beis Shammai says that's all true, providing that he's chishev, he plans that before the person dies. Because after the person dies, so then we don't say retroactively breira, we can decide that indeed this was the doorway that was going to be used, and all the other doorways are then going to be tahor. We don't say that. So that's Beis Shammai, and he therefore is the opinion of the one who says that we don't make shituv mivuos with oitzar, because maybe somebody will eat from the vinegar or whatever is oitzar, the yayin, and we don't know from where in the barrel is belonging the part that is for the shituv mivuos. Whereas Beis Hillel oimim af misheyamus hameis. Beis Hillel says, no, even after the person dies, we can still say retroactively that it was that doorway that he would have then gone through, whereby all the other doorways are going to be tahor. So therefore, it's Beis Hillel that says you can make shituv mivois through oitzar, because we do say breira. Says the Gemara weiter, there was a child, again, an eight-day-old boy who was ready for the bris milah, and the hot water that was prepared for him had spilled. Omar lohu Rava. Rava said to the people who were preparing for the bris milah for the child, Nishayle li'ime itzricha. Let us ask the mother of the child if she needs hot water. Now, the halacha is that initially, I believe it's the first week when there's a yoledes, so that if she says, I think the first 3 days, even if she does not say that she needs, and it's deemed upon that it's determined that she does need something to be done for her, even if it's a malacha d'oraisa, it's a state of pikuach nefesh, and we can do that for her. After 3 days until the 7th day, we can't do that if she doesn't ask for it, but if she does say, I need something that requires a malacha to be done for her, then we can do it. After 7 days, however, we cannot do the malacha even if she asks for it. However, we could then tell a goy, a nachri, to do a malacha on her behalf. So let's ask the mother if she needs hot water, and if she does, then we can have a nachri then heat up the water and add water into the pot for the child, so it will benefit the child as well. Nochim le nachri agav imei. Let us have the nachri prepare the hot water for the mother, and agav, the mother, will then benefit the child. Omar le Rav Mesharsha l'Rove imei koach letamri. We see that the mother is eating cold tamorim, cold dates, so that indicates that she doesn't require hot water. Omar le emortun v'ba'almu hu denokit lo. Let us say that she was so sick that she didn't distinguish between hot and cold, and therefore she does need, when she says she needs hot water, that would be an eitzah to heat up hot water, and agav, the mother, provide the hot water for the child.